Hi, everybody. If you're new here, let me introduce myself. My name's Katie. I have always loved cake, and I was a home baker for over 20 years before taking the leap and going to pastry school, where I learned so many different things about professional pastry technique. And cake is still one of my favorite things to make, though. So now that I'm no longer working in the industry, I make cakes like this from my own home kitchen, including 3D structured cakes. And I want to teach as many people as I can that you don't have to be a wizard or a professionally trained pastry chef to make amazing treats, including spectacular birthday cakes. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you are a smart cookie for watching this video. I'm sorry I had to. Yes, I made that cookie. It's too cute. This video is all about leveling, stacking, and crumb coating, which is the base of any great cake after you bake it properly, of course. So, only tools you need to level are a serrated knife and a turntable. If you don't have a professional turntable, grab the one out of your microwave. Get your knife steady. Keep an eye on the back part of your knife. The area where about my thumb is where my eyeballs are resting. And just gently go around the outside of the cake, going a little deeper each time you turn the turntable until you get the whole top of the cake off. That's all you need to do. Don't put too much pressure on it, or else you do what I do and you go all wonky and then you have to trim a little bit more. But that's okay. Also, that's what our eyeballs are for. Our eyes are really good at detecting how off something is. They like symmetry. So if it looks a little wonky, you can fix it with a little extra trimming like I just did on that layer. So my cakes, I like to make 4 layers. I like tall cakes. I think short cakes look kind of funky. So here's another layer. Right there, just finding the low point in the cake, putting it on the edge, letting the turntable do the work. I'm just barely turning the turntable. If I move my knife at all, it's in a sawing motion, right? Like bread, we saw, which helps reduce the amount that you are deforming the cake. And then there we go. We're straight through. We're done. And we have another level cake. Now, this cake was egg free. So there's a little less resistance to my knife than a standard cake would have. Egg provides a lot of structure, so that makes sense. It also makes sense why it looks almost a little more muffin like. However, the concept remains the same. You create a guide for yourself by going around the outside of the cake gently first. And then every time you go around on the turntable, you go just a little deeper, little deeper until you get all the way through your cake in one level motion. Now, apparently my cake wanted to slide around. I still managed to get the job done. It's okay. So now we have all 4 layers of our nice egg-free chunky cake um leveled. I've got buttercream here in a pastry bag. This is also an egg-free meringue-based buttercream. And I am just cutting a decent sized tip off the top. I also have myself set up with 2 different sizes of offset spatula. I have that is simple syrup, which is just 1-to-1 ratio, sugar to water dissolved. I've got my filling. Put a little bit of my buttercream on the cake board, put my cake down, and now I'm just gonna lightly brush it with simple syrup. You do not need a heavy soaking of this. This is just to add some shelf stability to the cake because cake dries out in the refrigerator, but you have to store it in the refrigerator for stability and safety. So now I'm going to go around just the outside with a dam of buttercream. That's what we call it. We call it a dam because it's there to hold in fillings. Um, this filling is bright red and not super thick. So I really want to make sure it's going to stay inside the cake and not mess up my nice white outside of my cake. I used a portioning scoop to portion my filling. That way, every layer has the same amount of filling. You don't have to weigh it or anything crazy like that. just use a scoop. If you don't have a portioning scoop like that, use a measuring cup. And that way, when you slice into your cake, you get nice, even layers. So once I spread out my filling, I go in with the second layer of cake. Now, I'm just eyeballing, straightening it up as much as I can. I don't want to push too hard and just push all that filling out, but I do want it to be secure. Now, just a little bit of simple syrup again. Simple syrup can also be flavored to complement your cake. Check my free guide in the box below for more information about good cake composition. Fantastic cake composition. Cake should taste good, not just look good, guys. So, again, a dam, my portioning scoop with my filling in it, and my little offset spatula, just spreading it out to the dam. I don't need to push too hard. It kind of does a lot of the work for me. The turntable, again, you can see I'm utilizing that to help me get that spread out evenly. Layer number 3, put it on there, kind of jiggle it into place. Little bit more simple syrup. You'll notice it gets a little repetitive, but that's a good thing because then your layers look the same when you cut into it. A beautiful slice of cake, guys, is one of the best sights in the world. Nice and even and brightly colored, and oh, it's so good. Another dam, a little bit of simple syrup, another dam. If you notice, I am kind of doubling up the dam. I'm kind of reinforcing it. This is a fairly soft filling, and it is nowhere near the color of my final coat of icing. So I really want to make sure the filling stays where it belongs on the inside. So again, I'm just going to spread it out just to the dam. I like my little 6-inch offset to do this. It's not a very big cake. Now, this cake is getting a little bit soft, but that's okay. I'm comfortable working with it. If you're not, put it in the refrigerator. I like to do my simple syrup on my final layer of cake before I put it on because I want to put my simple syrup on the cut side of cake, but I want my uncut side, the side that was facing down in the cake pan, which is much leveler and has cleaner edges and less crumbs, I want that facing up. That gives me a really good base for the top of my cake, and I will have a better chance of getting nice sharp edges and a smooth level top using that as my base instead of the cut side that I leveled using my eyeballs instead of the cake pan leveling it using its nice flat metal cake paniness. Now, at this point, I just went around. I used that little bit of buttercream that was left in my piping bag to just fill in any major gaps in the dam. Because when you do that dam, part of it is that a little bit kind of smudges out the sides and it gives you a start to the buttercream you need for your crumb coat, which is helpful. Once again, at this point, if you are not comfortable working with the cake and it is a little too soft, go put it in the refrigerator for 5 or 10 minutes, and just let it solidify a little bit more, and then it'll be easier to work with. I felt comfortable keeping on going, so I did. At this point, I'm taking my larger offset spatula, and I am just starting to get icing on the side. I don't like to waste my icing. And because this icing is very prone to getting crumbs in it, I try and use as little as possible so I'm not getting crumbs in the bulk of my buttercream, right? Butter's expensive. I don't want to waste most of it. I mean, I'm not opposed to eating a little bit, so which is also why I have that nice clean container there off to the side. That's where I'm going to scrape my spatula. I'm not going to scrape it into the bulk of my frosting because then I get crumbs in it. So I pull from my larger bowl, my bulk icing, to put the icing onto the cake. But then when I need to clean off my spatula, I scrape it into the crumb coat specific bowl or cup or whatever you're using. I've got a little quart or half quart deli container there. So then I just got enough on the edges to kind of get myself started. little bit on the top. And now I'm pushing the top all the way out to the edge because I want to get some built up on that edge there. That will help me get cleaner edges. So now I've got a pretty good coat around the sides. I'm just using that last little bit to fill in any gaps there at the top. And I made sure that when I did my top, I was pushing icing out over the edge. And now you see that icing is now kind of sitting proud of the top, um, which will come in handy for us in a little bit when we want to get cleaner edges. Now, like I said, I like tall cakes. So I just had to go grab my taller cake scraper. This thing is like 7 inches tall at this point. So now I'm taking just a nice tall bench scraper and I am scraping around the outside of the cake, um, just to start to remove some of the excess. A crumb coat is really meant to just cover the cake and lock in the crumbs and give you a base to work with. It does not need to be thick. I'm cleaning off my bench scraper using my other offset spatula there. I like to use both tools at the same time, but you could just do this with an offset spatula or a bench scraper. You don't have to have both tools available. So now I am just pulling that little bit that came up over the edge in towards the center, and I'm cleaning it off on my bench scraper in between each swipe. That helps me get a much sharper edge. Once again, this is the crumb coat. We're not worrying about perfection here. We are just worrying about coverage. So it's a good base for the beautiful crisp edge that I will show you in a later video. Now this cake is a little bit soft, so you can see I'm kind of like adjusting how straight it is just by pushing slightly. Again, feel free to put it in the refrigerator if it's getting too soft for you to work with. 5 or 10 minutes in the fridge seriously does wonders. I was still comfortable, so I kept going. Now that I've got a pretty good crumb coat on it, I'm just gonna take my offset spatula around the bottom edge there and clean off the stuff that built up. And now I'm gonna take it and put it in the refrigerator for at least 20 minutes before I start my finish coat. If you want to learn more about composing a cake like a pro, get the free guide below, 5 simple steps to better cake. And leave me some comments, leave me some questions. I love to see what you guys are baking, and I love to help people bake better. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.